Year 7, Macbeth. I have had to come outside for better internet signal, so forgive the background noise if you hear any animals or wind. Um, Last lesson we looked at theme. I think so. What is a theme? Do you remember? Yes, I remember last lesson. We had a chat over the. Had a chat with a couple of students on the learning clinic on themes. Themes are bigger issues that run through a text, so deeper meanings, basically. For example, um, witchcraft or the supernatural, religion, politics, crime, punishment, treason. These are all themes, basically, more general ideas that are covered or hinted at in the text that form the basis of the plot. So what is one theme that features in Macbeth? I'm not going to tell you the answer because I read you about 5 a few seconds ago, but you do need to know I will tell you what a collaborator is, because the new King of Scotland promises to punish Macbeth's collaborators, which are people who cooperate treacherously with an enemy, so people who are on the wrong side. We arrive at collaborator via the Latin with plus work, com plus laborare. So, what happened to the collaborators of Guy Fawkes who were arrested? Remember Robert Catesby and some other Catholic plotters were arrested as part of the gunpowder plot. So what happened to them? And which of these is a synonym for collaborator? Queen, accomplice, or egg? A synonym for someone who cooperates treacherously with an enemy. Today, we have some really fun tasks for you to do. We're going to read and understand Act 5, Scene 8. We're going to touch on Scene 7, touch on Scene 6. We're going to analyse the exchange between Macduff and Macbeth before they fight. And we're going to have a look at the very end of the play where Malcolm gives a speech. I'm going to show you the 2 tasks today. You have a choice. Either deliver a short news report as if you're a reporter on the scene of Dunsinane, basically at Inverness Castle in the last scene. How will you explain to your readers, to your audience, what has just happened? Or you might choose option 2, which is to write a scene where 3 witches are reflecting on the play, the events in the play. So write about how you felt about the game with Macbeth and whether you've been successful. How do you feel about your handiwork? So 2 options today. They're both very interesting, actually. I did both. So let's touch on Act 5, Scene 6, I should say. You need to know that Malcolm, who is hiding in Burnham Wood, orders his soldiers to throw down their branches and push forward to attack Macbeth at the castle. And in Scene 7, very short scene, Macbeth kills Seward, an English soldier, and Macbeth's castle is captured. So Macbeth is on the run when he comes to Scene 8, which we will read carefully. Questions I need you to bear in mind are: why has Macbeth avoided Macduff more than any other soldier? What does Macduff tell Macbeth? Why is it terrible news for him? And what choice does Macduff offer Macbeth? I really have problems separating Macduff and Macbeth. And what does Macbeth choose and why? So Macduff offers Macbeth a way out, basically, but Macbeth refuses. Okay, so let's jump over to Edge and read the scene carefully. So let's leave out PowerPoint. Let's leap into Edge. Probably for one of the last times, folks, we're going to finish the play today. Choose the right part of Edge. Yes, okay. Now, unfortunately, Twinkle, the lovely people who provide our text, made a couple, I think they made a couple of errors just to test us. But I'll point them out as we go along. So Macbeth at the castle says, "Why should I play the Roman fool and die on my own sword?" Basically, the Roman fool. Has anyone heard of Brutus? Anyone heard of Julius Caesar? Well, Brutus lost a battle for Julius Caesar, so he did the wrong thing. And Brutus killed himself because he didn't want to face Caesar's wrath. So he fell on his own sword, basically stabbed himself. But Macbeth says, "Well, I'm losing a battle, but why should I play the Roman fool, Brutus, and die on my own sword? Whilst I see lives, the gashes do better upon them. So I'd rather stay alive and attack Peter." Macduff arrives and says, "Turn, hellhound." This is just the beginning of the duel between Macduff and Macbeth. Macbeth, this glorious image here of Macduff. "My voice is in my sword. I don't want to speak to you anymore. My sword will do the talking." Then they have a battle, which Macbeth appears to be winning. A brilliant structural device by Shakespeare, because Macbeth has been told to beware of Macduff. But here Macbeth seems to be having the upper hand. "Let thy blade fall on vulnerable crests," boasts Macbeth. "My crest, my head is not vulnerable, because I have a charmed life." Remember what the witches told him? None can harm Macbeth. No man born of woman can harm Macbeth. Macduff says, "Well, you may want to know that I wasn't technically born in the usual way. I was from my mother's womb untimely ripped." Unfortunately, my friend who was reading as Macduff says ultimately ripped, but untimely ripped. My mum had a C-section, so I wasn't born. I was torn from her tummy. Macbeth, therefore, realizes that Macduff is the man who has not been born of woman. The witches were using equivocation, saying one thing that appeared true, but there's a double meaning. He calls them fiends. What does he say? Yes, juggling fiends that palter. Palter is another word for equivocate in a double sense, deceived by these witches. But Macduff says, "I'll give you an option. Yield, which means give up, and live to be the show and gaze at the time." So set an example of what a monster behaves like. "You'll be painted upon a pole. We can tie you to a pole, and right underneath you, here may you see the tyrant." So it's a form of public shaming for Macbeth. He says, "I don't fancy that, sorry. I will not yield to kiss the ground before young Malcolm's feet. I'd rather fight until the last." "Lay on, Macduff, let's fight." They do fight. Macbeth is slain. He's killed. And that's it. Then Malcolm enters. So we'll jump over to Malcolm's speech. Twinkle, twinkle. Typo there. That should be Malcolm, not Macbeth. So Malcolm arrives at the last speech and says, "We will not spend a large expense of time before we reckon with your several loves. So we're going to thank you all for helping us, thanes and kinsmen. The thanes who helped me are going to henceforth, from now, be called earls. Henceforth be earls, which means from now on I'm going to give you an English title." Remember, King James was watching this, so he would like to. It's almost an instruction manual for the new King of Scotland to bring English culture up to Scotland. So you'll be earls for helping me. Meanwhile, what's going to happen to the cruel ministers of this dead butcher? A cruel minister means a collaborator. Who's the dead butcher? Macbeth and his fiend-like queen. and there's a reference to self-harm, suicide. She took her life by her own violent hands. And thanks one and all, come and see my coronation at a place called Scone. Notice how Malcolm uses rhyming couplets somewhere, like grace and place, basically a couple of rhyming words, pairs of rhyming lines, I should say. And this is actually quite a comic ending for me because, disappointingly, he doesn't use a full rhyme. It's sometimes known as a half rhyme. Thanks to all at once and to each one, whom we invite to see us crowned at Scone. Well, one doesn't quite rhyme with scone, but that's Shakespeare was pairing those two lines because Malcolm is royal, Malcolm is now decisive, therefore Malcolm must rhyme in rhyming verse, which we all know about now, don't we? So that's Malcolm's speech, not Macbeth's speech. I'm going to ask you to do two creative tasks. So let's leap back over to PowerPoint, stopping on the way to press the right buttons, switch the sound on. One of the reasons I wanted to come out here was that the signal is slightly more successful for playing video summaries, which they play quite slowly sometimes. But if you go into YouTube, there are faster versions. Okay, where are we? Let's look at those. Option 1, deliver a short news report. I need to tell you how to write a news report. So I suggest you write this down as we go along. Pause the video, write a subheading. First thing to do is write a catchy title using alliteration. For example, Macbeth Massacred or something. One sentence subheading, next summarizing the whole story. So Evil Thane killed in final stand. And then you write an opening paragraph explaining the 5 W's: when the incident happened, where it happened, who was involved, what exactly happened, and why, or perhaps in a different order. Then you carry on, build on some eyewitness accounts. Who do you want to write about? The porter, Malcolm, Macduff himself, the doctor? It's up to you. Let's have an example. My catchy title using alliteration, some alliteration, is Serpent Thane Slain. Scotland celebrates after Malcolm returns to win throne. That's my one sentence summary. Then the who, what, why, where, when, and so on. Last night, cheers rose around Dunsinane. So last night, that's the when. As the evil Macbeth, who was slain after the fierce battle to reclaim the crown for exiled Prince Malcolm. That's the what and the why. So let's go on to some eyewitness reports, shall we? Let's talk about the Thane of Fife stuff. I'm exhausted, says brave Thane of Fife, who had led the assault on Macbeth's castle. The hellhound fought well, but we had God on our side, not witchcraft and so on. I tried to use, again, some of the language from the play Hellhound. Who's this? The porter. When I saw Birnam Wood move towards us, I thought I was drunk, said the porter at Inverness Castle. The place was too cold for hell. But now Macbeth is dead, and with him sin, and so on. I may be tempted to reconsider my resignation. The second task is the second option, you could have some real fun with this, I think, is to write a scene where 3 witches meet after the battle's done. How do they feel about their handiwork? So, you all know how to write like a witch? Or to write a witch. Here is my guide to how to speak like Shakespearean witches. First of all, they're obsessed with the number 3. Thrice to thine, thrice to thine, thrice again to make up 9, for example. And thrice means 3 times. They speak in rhyme, always. Witches, fairies, always rhyme. They also usually have shorter lines than others. We did a little work at this, and they don't quite speak in pentameter. I think I agreed with one of you that it was a sort of quadrameter, 4 beats per line rather than 5. They also use old-fashioned language even for 16, even for Shakespeare's time. So here's an example. Anybody did us please, we witches scheme and laugh and tease. Um, well, I didn't like scheme and laugh, so I wanted to make the language slightly older. So instead of scheme and laugh, I wrote jest and charm. We witches jest and charm and tease. Macbeth and our equivocation meant England helped our struggling nation, and so on. Have a read that if you choose that task. So, that, my friends, is Act 5, Scene 6, 7, and 8, and the end of the play. Want to see how Macbeth dies? Let's have a look at the video summary whenever it appears. I'll see you on the other side of this.
Students, welcome to the Heath. Now, what would King James be seeing on that first performance of Macbeth in 1606? Well, he would be witnessing a man that committed treason punished in the following scene. Macduff reveals that he has been born from a caesarean section, which means he wasn't technically born. Therefore, he's able to kill Macbeth, and kill Macbeth he does. Then Malcolm returns to the ramparts to invite everyone to a coronation of the new Scottish king. He also says that everyone who helped him from now on will be called an earl, which is an English title, an old English title. And that represents the unity between King James's England and King James's Scotland. Remember that he was king of both nations.
Why should I play the Roman fool and die on my own sword? Whilst I see lives, the gashes do better upon them.
Turn, hellhound, turn.
Of all men else I have avoided thee, but get thee back, my soul is too much charged with blood of thine already.
I have no words. My voice is in my sword.
Round one, fight!
Thou losest labour. Let fall thy blade on vulnerable crests. I bear a charmed life which must not yield to one of woman born.
Spare thy charm, and let the angel whom thou still hast served tell thee Macduff was from his mother's womb ultimately ripped.
Accursed be the tongue that tells me so, and may these juggling fiends be no more believed that palter with us in a double sense. I'll not fight with thee.
Then yield thee, coward.
I will not yield. To kiss the ground before young Malcolm's feet, and to be baited with the rabble's curse. Though Burnham Wood be come to Dunsinane, and thou opposed being of no woman born, yet I'll try the last.
Hail, King, for so thou art. Behold, where stands the usurper's cursed head? The time is free.
We shall not spend a large expense of time before we reckon with your several loves, and make us even with you. My thanes and kinsmen henceforth be earls, the first that ever Scotland in such an honoured name. What's more to do, which would be planted newly with the time, as calling home our exiled friends abroad that fled the snares of watchful tyranny, producing forth the cruel ministers of his dead butcher and his fiend-like queen, who, as 'tis thought, by self and violent hands took off her life. This, and what needful else that calls upon us, by the grace of grace, we will perform in measure, time, and place. So, thanks to all at once and to each one, whom we invite to see us crowned at Scone.
So students, that was Macbeth, the play that begins on a heath and celebrates the achievements of a brave and loyal soldier, but a play that goes on to portray him as hubristic, overambitious, and treasonous, and who, with the actions of his fiend-like wife, goes against God, goes against a great chain of being, and serves as an example to anyone who was planning the same thing.
They do well. So what themes does Malcolm's speech include at the end? You should have the text. It's that very last page. It says Macbeth. It's actually a typo. It should say Malcolm. You could look at loyalty or perhaps politics, or what other themes have you identified? And what did Malcolm say would happen to Macbeth's collaborators, those agents of Macbeth? So have a look at those two questions and choose one of the creative tasks, and we will very much look forward to reading those when you produce them. Bye for now.